The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's informed the United States that he opposes the establishment of a Palestinian state as part of any post-war scenario. It was back in 2009 that Netanyahu said there should be a Palestinian state, but a disarmed one. By 2015, this became no Palestinian state. His newly expressed stance is at odds with Israel's biggest ally. The US said that the establishment of a Palestinian state should be part of the day after Washington's call on Israel to scale back its offensive.
For 30 years, I'm very consistent, and I'm saying a simple thing. This conflict is not about a lack of a state, but the existence of a state, a Jewish state. Any territory we withdraw from, we are getting terror, and an awful terror against us. It happened in southern Lebanon, it's happened in the Gaza Strip, it's happened in Judea and Samaria. In any arrangement for the foreseeable future, with arrangement or without it, the State of Israel must maintain security control over all territory west of the Jordan River. This is a necessary condition.
Hezbollah says it's not open to a US proposal to pull back its fighters 7 kilometers from the border with Israel in order to ease tensions. But insiders say the Iran-backed group is not closing doors to other US proposals. Lebanese mediators are communicating US ideas to Hezbollah. Hezbollah's position is that it will fire rockets at Israel until there is a full ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Let's bring in for more analysis of this one Filippo Dionigi, who's a senior lecturer of politics and international relations based at the University of Bristol. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for being with us here on France 24. Any surprise in your mind that Hezbollah has rejected the idea?
I'm not entirely convinced this is worded in the best way. Hezbollah has been critical of the possibility of engaging diplomatically on this front while the conflict in Gaza is still going on, and they've said that clearly. And they said also that they're open to engage militarily with Israel. They're not afraid of war, and that's obviously something they have said. But on the other hand, if one has listened carefully to the speech of Hassan Nasrallah on the 14th of January, for example, you could sort of read between the lines that a diplomatic door is still open to an extent. As Nasrallah literally said that whenever and if ever the Gaza aggression ends, then at that point, incidents in Lebanon will be dealt with gradually and one by one, which it means, that still is not a complete denial of the possibility of a diplomatic path. But again, the condition remains that before that diplomatic path can bring any fruit, the Gaza operation has to end, or at least there has to be a significant signal that is moving towards an end, and Hezbollah can accept that.
But when Hezbollah says, Filippo, that it will continue firing rockets at Israel until there is a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, in today's market, that looks like that's heading towards war, doesn't it? I mean, you've got to look at it that way. It's a continuation. There will be more aggression and there'll be more retaliation and more return of fire.
Yes, I think what we're going to witness in the meantime, until when we don't see the end of hostilities in Gaza, will be pretty much a continuation of what we saw so far. You're right in that sense. So it'll be an exchange of fire between Israel and Hezbollah, and it'll be a dangerous situation because thus far that exchange has played out more or less within certain rules of engagement that traditionally Israel and Hezbollah to an extent tend to respect. But on some occasions, for example, with the killing of Aruri in Beirut, things have gone a little bit beyond those limits, and that opens the possibility to a greater escalation in that respect. The other possibility is error, is mistake, is overshooting, is involving civilians to an extent that is greater than what they are already involved in, and so on, and that can create unwanted consequences on both sides of the conflict, and therefore open the possibility to a greater escalation and even the possibility of an all-out war, which is something that Israel has been threatening clearly, and Hezbollah too obviously has responded with the same tone to that kind of threat, as I was saying.
Just filling the gaps for people watching, Filippo, you referred to the assassination of Aruri, that's Sameh al-Aruri, the senior Hamas operator, who was hit by a drone which was sent into southern Beirut, basically a Hezbollah stronghold, where he was in a meeting with 2 other Hamas leaders and other senior people, and they were hit there and killed. Something that you might expect to find in a spy movie, but it's happening before our very eyes in this conflict. A conflict that is on multiple fronts, according to Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister. He talked of 7 fronts. He's including 2 there in what we call the West Bank, but he refers to that as Samaria and Judea. Do we anticipate, and I think you've just already sort of intimated it will, an acceleration of this conflict? Because it seems to me that there is a lot of momentum going in the wrong direction.
It's true. Things are going. Things are fluctuating quite a lot, I must say. I think there are 2 parallels conflict narrative going on at this point. There is definitely a war going on. That's out of the question at a regional level. What is going to be decided, I think, at this point, is the battlefield of this war. Whether it's going to be a regional war, possibly more a kind of attrition war that span all the way from the Red Sea, all the way to Pakistan, according to the kind of attacks that we witness these days and the response that the US has given, for example, against the Houthis in that respect. That would be one scenario, sort of regional attrition war, not necessarily high intensity. And then another possible scenario instead, the one that Gallant was perhaps mentioning and that you were quoting a minute ago, is a more sort of Gaza-like, intense, all-out war concentrating on Lebanon in that sense. Israel seemed to be tempted by this option. There are some members in the Israeli government that they think that the opportunity for them to act against Hezbollah is now or never. They feel empowered by the negligence of Western allies towards Gaza, and basically they expect that the same negligence and the same indifference will apply also to an attack against Hezbollah and Lebanon more largely. That's the kind of expectation that probably they have. In reality, what prevents these possibilities so far is the very fact that the United States has been clear about the fact that they don't want that specific scenario to become a reality, so far at least. And on the other hand, also Iran itself has made clear that it's not particularly interested in that kind of scenario as well, which it matters obviously because Hezbollah is very much dependent on Iranian interest and will in that respect. And again, that's also why Hezbollah has been relatively self-restrained in its reaction to the Israeli aggression in that sense. What really can prevent the possibility of that scenario and the worsening of the regional scenario is the actual implementation of a ceasefire in Gaza. That's what would produce possible de-escalation to a meaningful level.
Filippo Dionigi of Bristol University, Senior Lecturer in Politics and International Relations. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your analysis with us here on France 24. We really do appreciate it. And of course, we watch for all developments across the region on its multi-faceted front, as it's been referred to, with issues happening across the entire region, which lead to a stoking of tensions on the battlefront.